Hey everybody, we're back with our Market Movers special guest episode, and today we have Josh from Cardboard Chronicles. He's half of the brain trust behind Card Ladder, the data analysis tool for basically keeping track of your cards and looking up prices, price history, you name it. Cardboard Chronicles is also a pretty awesome podcast as well. If you haven't listened to that, check that out as well. Josh brings a very data-driven analysis to the hobby and to collecting, and you'll see that provides a really nice counterpoint to somebody like me who does it all on emotion and gut. So we're really lucky to have Josh here. He's got some great insights about the markets in Asia. He's got some great insights about the markets overall and the ebbs and flows of the hobby this year and where he sees it going. So again, thanks for listening and welcome Josh from Cardboard Chronicles.
What is up, Luca Nation? I'm really excited to have a special guest. In a lot of ways, he's the brains behind Card Ladder and has one of the coolest personal collections, I think, on Instagram. His name's Joshua Johnson, Cardboard Chronicles. So I'm really excited about this guest. He's been really generous with us and his time today. He has two amazing kids at home, I believe, and they're screaming and yelling, and it's the weekend. But he said, the cardboard community needs us. We need to bring them the info. So Josh, I'm really excited to have you here today.
Man, thanks. Yeah, it's nuts here on the weekends, but we got to make time for cards. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. I have a ton of things I want to ask you, but given that we're recording this, guys, Luca Nation, we're recording this Sunday at about 3 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so the games are going on. Something that's just caught my attention: football. Football is something that, and Cage mentioned this when we had your business partner, Chris Hodge, on. We didn't expect football breaks and football cards to be as popular. What did you think? Did you expect that? We had NBA, we have baseball cards, but this transition into football and breaking, did you expect it to be like this? And what have you seen in the first few weeks of football season here?
Yeah, I did expect it. Just because I feel like this is the first year where we've had card mania going into a football season. Since cards have really taken off, with COVID and everything. And this is really the first season of football that we've had this. So I figured people were already hyped about basketball and everything that's going on there, that they were just gonna jump over to football and continue the mania. So, and I kind of figured the fantasy football community would start getting into it more, the gambling community. Some of those trends we've seen in basketball, it seemed like a pretty easy transition over to football.
So that's a great transition. So we released an episode today where we kind of talk about the overlap of football cards and daily fantasy. And I don't know if you've seen today, but there have been a ton of injuries, a ton of injuries. I feel like you're giving me that nod. Did your fantasy team have some injuries?
No, when I was talking about what football cards to buy, I was really trying to get across the point that you want to try to find less risky guys that are already established. Buying these young fantasy football players for cards is very risky because they get hurt just like today.
Well, let's
Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt today.
Let's talk about that, right? So, Josh, how would you play that? What would you do, right? So you're a new investor like me. I'm a NBA card guy, okay? I love basketball cards, and there's not a ton of injuries in basketball. But here, as football season starts up, there are a lot of injuries. So what do you look for? Is it quarterbacks? Is it running backs? Is it wide receivers? Where do you look to? And, the goal is just to add value to Luca Nation here. So if you could share.
The first thing I do with the younger risky guys is I buy them in March, and then I sell them before the season because there's literally zero risk to that. But if you're playing the in-season game, I'm buying older players. I bought a lot of Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones. I've dabbled a little bit in Mike Thomas, and I already got burned on that. He got hurt first week. I have
Julio Jones is hurt all the time. I feel like he's been hurt his whole career.
He's pretty. I'm not sure about that. He's pretty consistent. He has 12,000 yards already. He's on pace. He's ahead of Jerry Rice's pace, so he definitely plays. He gets nicked up every once in a while, but most players do. I just was saying buy guys that are already on their way to the Hall of Fame like older guy, like Larry Fitzgerald. Who cares if he has a bad year? He's already like top 2 in every category. He's already going to the Hall of Fame. He's less risky. So like, if you want to catch the wave of people jumping into football, you can still do that and have less risk by buying older players. And like Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Barry Sanders, you can buy those guys too. They've already retired.
So let me just give Cage a quick background real quick. So Cage, Josh is one of the 3 founders of Cardboard Ladder, and he's the developer, he's the coder, he's the one that got us got our podcast on is it the blog or is the content part of the website?
Yeah, it's
so
just like the homepage content. Yeah.
We appreciate you taking the time to do that for us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Definitely. That's pretty cool. So it's just another place where our folks can find our content. And listen, guys, so it's fun, right? I jumped in a couple minutes late here, but that was a great time to jump in, right? So we have a lot of people who, so Josh, just so that you have it, right? I mean, we talk a different language, right? We talk about, this stuff because, you eat, drink, and sleep this stuff, right? And it was a real wake-up moment for me, I don't know, about a month ago when somebody messaged me and asked me what pop meant. That we talk about pop all the time, and they say, what's pop? And I had to explain to them about the PSA population report and the whole deal. And one of the things you just talked about is something I want our listeners to actually pay attention to, right? Because there's a million ways to skin a cat, as they like to say, right? So we're now experiencing what the NFL brings that a lot of other sports don't. Yeah, people get injured in other sports, but the NFL, look what happened today. I mean, stud names, first-round draft picks in your fantasy league. You name it. There are people who are injured. There are people coming into the week who are injured, and just I haven't seen so many stretchers since an episode of MASH. That just should tell you guys how old I am. There, I mean, it's a real Andrew. Go look up what MASH is.
Dak just got crushed, and we got my man Andy Dalton in.
Yeah, Dak. Don't worry, the Cowboys were coming back, dude. The Cowboys are coming back. Don't you worry. They were down big. The Cowboys are coming back today. Watch. So, but in any event, the point that I'm trying to make with Josh saying this is he has a strategy for football that's almost injury proof. I mean, look, in a normal season, there's preseason and people still get injured there. And, we've had people get injured putting their pants on. But what he's telling you is his strategy is buy in the off season after, the dust has settled on, Patrick Mahomes going up, you name it, or Lamar Jackson coming down because he didn't make it to the Super Bowl. After the dust settles, buy somebody and then sell it before the season, as there's hype for like the preseason. There's hype for people looking for these guys like Kyler Murray hype going into the year, right? So it's an interesting strategy. And then also, we talk about this all the time too. I mean, we could probably talk about Julio Jones, wide receiver. I mean, Jerry Rice is Jerry Rice. I can't even think of another wide receiver that has any real lasting value in NFL cards. But we talk about a flight to quality. We talk about, that kind of stuff. And what you're talking about of buying Larry Fitzgerald, buying Julio Jones, they're probably bargains right now only because people aren't really looking at wide receivers. And they're definitely not the shiny new toy. I mean, it's a refrain that we hear all the time on our show, right? Everybody wants the Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he has one good game in the NFL. Everybody wants the new thing with, with some potential to go up or double this week. Whereas you're putting your money, at least a portion of it, into those tried and true, as Andrew would like to call them, Apple stocks. So, guys, if you missed that part, that's an important lesson that Josh is bringing to the table here. I mean, it's a different way of investing. It's a different way of diversifying your card investment portfolio. So, thanks for that, Josh.
Like this offseason, I bought a ton of like Drew Lock, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, the super risky guys, and I sold all of it before the preseason. I don't own any of those guys anymore, and it worked for Lock, and it's not really working for Kyler Murray. I'm losing out on money, but I took my profit on Drew Lock. It could have been disastrous, right? Like, so you just sort of have to figure out how much risk you want to have, and maybe some of it you hold going into the season, and some you sell just to take your profit. But I'm happy with the 2x guarantee profit versus the possible 3x and possible 0.
I love how Josh thinks. And Cage, literally your play on Drew Lock about 4 to 5 weeks ago was that exact thing. It was sell the hype, right?
100%. Sell him before he starts losing. Sell him before it starts to go down. I wasn't selling him before he starts to get injured, but it was one of those things where I'm not completely sold on him, but everybody else seems to be, and everybody else seems to want a piece of him. So you might as well buy him now and then sell him. I mean, there's a lot of that.
I want to touch on 2 quarterbacks here, and you touched on one, Kyler. The second one, this quarterback, I feel he does more with less than anyone I've ever seen. So Josh, I want to hear from you. If you're holding Kyler Murray cards right now, a Kyler Murray PSA 10, buy, hold, sell, and the second guy, Minshew Mania. What would you do with him?
I'm selling Murray. His Prism PSA 10 silver is like over $5,000 or something. He had a great week 1. He's got a lot of weapons, but this is football, man. Stuff changes so fast. Like, he could have a bad week. You know, someone could get hurt. One of his weapons could get hurt. It's just risky. His stuff is like more expensive than Russell Wilson right now, and he doesn't have a Super Bowl. He doesn't have a playoff appearance. It's risky. Can he go up more? Sure. I don't see how much more he could go up at this point, except for them like making a push towards the playoffs. Minshew, I'd probably sell him as well. Honestly, like, what are they gonna like? They're trying to lose. They're like getting rid of everybody. They're like literally trying to lose so they can get a different quarterback. I don't know if that's gonna be like a good long-term play. He might have a couple more good weeks. Are they losing right now? I think they're losing to the Titans.
They're losing by 7, but he just brought him back. They were losing by 14. He just scored a touchdown. To be fair, they kicked the onside kick before the half. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. So they went up. They went down the field, scored a field goal, 10 seconds left, no timeouts. You know what Jacksonville does? They do an onside kick. Tennessee recovers and throws a 10-yard pass, and then they kick a field goal.
Jacksonville does some silly things. They definitely do. But Minshew, he's perfect for them because you wouldn't expect him to be the quarterback on any other team, and yet it works. He's having a good game. Chark's having a good game.
Yeah, I do. I totally understand like the sort of gambling fun aspect of this thing. It's just not my style. Like, you're just usually going to hear me selling stuff like that and buying older guys. That's just my style.
Speaking of buying older guys, I couldn't help, before our episode today, I wanted to do a little research. And this man right here just picked up a Net Pro, Mr. Roger Federer. How does that feel? That's a cool card to have, right?
Yeah, I don't have it yet. I bought it. It's not here yet. But I have like a different Federer card from like 2002, and then I did buy the Net Pro glossy, and that's on the way. It's good. I mean, the guy's like already established as probably the best tennis player of all time. And his cards are cheap, and so that's my favorite combo, is finding guys that are like surefire legends, Hall of Famers, and their cards are cheap.
Why do you think his cards are cheap?
Why do I think his cards are cheap?
Yeah. Why do you think his cards are cheap?
Because people don't collect tennis cards.
Well,
he doesn't have
there you go.
He doesn't have good cards.
You answered my question for me. People don't collect tennis cards. So I hear way too many people in our space talking about buying tennis and golf and all this ancillary stuff. And what I bring to the table here is it all makes me nervous. Mosaic makes me nervous. All of these releases make me nervous. People investing in their life savings and Chronicles make me nervous. People buying tennis cards and golf cards makes me nervous because the hobby's been around for how long? I mean, I've seen some Cincinnati baseball club cards from the 1850s. There's a whole bunch of Allen and Ginter and old Judge cards in the 1870s, 1880s, tobacco cards. I mean, you got cards been around for over 100 years, and I know that there are older cards too. There's boxer cards, there's cards of other sports. I've seen tennis player cards. I don't know anybody who collects them outside of this year. Literally this year, with the craziness of sports, I don't want to use the word bubble because I don't want to scare people, because I'm sure there are people listening that have a whole bunch of Federer cards and Serena Williams cards and Tiger Woods cards, but to me, and it's just me, guys. I mean, you tune in.
Well, this is Grandpa Cage, Josh.
It's not that.
Gage has two personalities. He has his charismatic side, and then he's got Grandpa Cage. So when we talk about golf and tennis cards, cynicism all the way through.
Well, it's not cynicism. It's realism. It's at some point in time, people cannot throw a dart at a dartboard and make 6x on cards, right? You can't do it.
Federer's a legend. Federer has
the biggest
brand
He's a
in the
legend
world.
of tennis. And if you're a tennis guy, I apologize. He's got a huge brand. He's got nice watches. He does a whole bunch of stuff, but it's still tennis cards. And ultimately, when the money is down, right? And this thing is not my kid can pick winners in these sports. When it's real and it becomes something that's a little bit more strategic, and people are looking to solidify their portfolios, they're looking to get down to what really they want to collect. There's not enough people who really want to collect Roger Federer. Right now, it's a play. It's a play in a space where people aren't actually going. It's a lot of the whole, where's this social influencer we know going to go next with his money and hold up a card on Instagram or on Twitter And oh shit, he held up a Roger Federer. Wow, now I can make my money. That's what people are trying to find. Nobody really wants a Roger Federer card. No offense. And if they do, they're in the small minority. This is not Grandpa Cage. This is me telling our audience, don't be crazy. Don't spread your money so thin.
Josh, what do you think?
I don't. Why haven't you brought up soccer yet? You're going on a rant. Why haven't you brought up
soccer too? Soccer too. I'm with you, Josh. Soccer. I'll throw soccer right in there. And soccer's a huge global sport. There's a lot of fans of it. But just because it has a lot of fans doesn't mean it has a lot of fans of the cardboard.
Yeah.
So I have soccer cards. I've invested in some soccer cards. I got Mbappe stuff coming back from PSA on Tuesday. A bunch of his stuff, and it will not last in my house past Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why I started football, because like people went nuts for soccer, and I heard this whole thing about like soccer cards and global, all this stuff. But the data shows that like America has the highest buying power of cards by like a pretty wide margin, and America likes football. So I just felt like the right football cards in general were underpriced. So I started buying like different rookies of legendary players. So that was just the play there.
I like
the
that
Federer
strategy.
thing is,
I like this. I like the football strategy. I don't know about Federer, but let's hear about the data points and whatnot behind Federer.
well, there's not really much data and research behind it for me. I just like him. I bought like 2 cards. I'm not investing to flip. It's just like 2 cards that I bought. So there's not like this big plunge for me into tennis cards. Like I see the Serena Williams one. I saw like an SI for Kids card, which I think is goofy and tacky. The Net Pro is like the only one where it's like a decently recognizable brand of any sort, and everything else to me is junk.
Check out the prices on good graded SI for Kids Tiger Woods. I'm with you on the look of it, but wait till you see how much those things sell for in high grade. It is absurd. It's crazy high. So I'm with you on the Sports Illustrated for Kids cards, but wait, just when we hang up here, look up what his cards, what Tiger Woods Sports Illustrated Kids in a 9 or a 10. It is absurd.
Well, what I heard there, and I'd love to hear more about it, Josh, is you mentioned that America has the highest buying power for sports cards by a mile, right? And I don't want to misquote there.
Right.
So I've been looking for that data. That's really fascinating. Where were you able to find that? And where does China rank on that? Or do we have any data on them? Maybe empirically or anecdotally?
You can get that from Terapeak. So I've poked around it a little bit on Terapeak. eBay bought Terapeak recently, so they have that data available, where the purchase is coming from. And most of the soccer stuff I saw was America, like 80% of it. Some of it was Europe. But definitely China and Asia has a ton of buying power for basketball. And I think that's why basketball is really seen as like this global international sport for collecting, because there are 2 big buying powers for the cards, and all the other sports seem to have one. So that's why basketball is doing so well.
So I grew up playing soccer, and my whole life I heard that soccer is the most popular sport. But I always say, and I'd say this to Cage, like I like when data supports the eye test. And to me, with supporting the eye test, I've had a chance to travel a little bit in the last few years and go to Indonesia and places like that. It's easily basketball is the world's most popular sport right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it's a more accessible game too. I feel like it's just easier to like pick up a ball and start playing. Whereas soccer and football and baseball, 100%. you need more people. You need like a team, and you need coaches, and it's just like a big organized thing.
Yep. So let me ask, because you have the great strategy, and I love it. And by the way, I don't know if you listened to our preview play this morning, but I like to give a lot of like new guys, Minshew's and Kyler Murray's and that kind of stuff. But I like to mix it in, like you said, with some of the pros. My pick in the in Green Bay game was, don't buy any newfangled guys, don't buy any shiny new toys. Buy an Aaron Rodgers 2005 Topps rookie card in PSA 10 for $550. Why not? Instead of spending more money on some of these guys that don't have that track record, this guy, he's coming into the season with a chip on his shoulder, right? So, and you seem to be buying into a little bit of that as well, looking for, let's call it market inefficiencies, right? Julio Jones and Larry Fitzgerald's cards should be significantly more in the way you've assessed the data. Let me ask you something, because we've seen basketball vintage, we'll call it vintage. We've seen recent vintage basketball, like the 86 Fleer stuff, fly. There are some PWCC auctions ending tonight. Dominique Wilkins, 8,000 to 10, maybe a $10,000 card. Now that card has a really low pop. I actually have one of those, and I'm surprised it took this long for it to catch up to like Hakeem and those guys. But you're talking about Patrick Ewing is at like $5 or $6 grand. Charles Barkley's at like $8 grand. Hakeem's 10 grand. It's sold for more. Do you think that people in Asia care about those guys? I think that's why it is, or you think we talk about 2 big markets, right? The Asian market and America buying market. You think the reason those are going up are that, or what do you think's behind that?
I think the biggest reason for the vintage surge is that we're hearing all this talk of like, especially from Gary, he's been kind of leading the charge. Gary V's been talking a lot about like just buy older legends, kind of like I'm saying, and people are moving their money out of base prism stuff, some of these younger high pop things, and they're just moving all that money to vintage. We see on card ladder, we literally see like the cards that are dropping the most right now are rookie prism PSA 10s and soccer, and the cards going up the most are vintage basketball. So people are taking their money from one to the next. The Asian market doesn't care that much about those guys. They like the 90s guys. We see a lot of Asia buying on like 90s PMGs, rubies, basketball stuff, and exquisite like rookie patch auto stuff. That culture loves jersey auto cards, and they love breaking those kinds of boxes. So I see more of the Asian power on exquisite and the 90s stuff. Vintage.
That's cool, by the way. That's cool. First of all, that you have the data. So it's amazing what Card Ladder could bring to the table. And I'm going to shut up and let you talk about it at some point during this, but it's just not what I do. I don't shut up and let anybody talk. That's kind of my thing. So, but I'll let you. I promise.
You do a better job than you think, Cage. You have a lot to show.
Every once in a while. But no, so I love the data they bring to the table. And what you just said, it's another thing I didn't even think about, right? Because, yeah, they're into basketball. And I'm like, oh, they're into the shiny new Zion, the whole deal. They're not. They're into the 90s guys. They're into the PMGs, into the Skybox Rubies. They're into those. It's real high-end stuff and they break those boxes. And they want – Andrew is big on this. He's talked about this a lot. He's talked about how the pop, that's population report, guys, for the pop on those like RPAs, the rookie patch autos, are so low, and that people should be moving their money into that rather than buying a million base prism rookie cards in PSA 10. And it sounds like that market overseas is already doing that, and that's cool data. That's a cool data point that you guys are able to bring to the table.
Minshew with another tutty, by the way. Three touchdowns.
Dude, Minshew's a beast. He's a beast. He's a beast. I don't care. He's a beast. Is it Chark or is it Conley? Who did he throw?
It was Chark. It was Chark.
Oh, there we go,
Thompson.
guys. Oh, come on. Listen, it doesn't even matter. That's his running back. It doesn't matter who it is. Chark's having a good game. He had like 70 yards at halftime. I want to go back. I want to find the clip. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win, right? But they're a good team, the Jaguars. I'm not saying they're going to win, but Rex Ryan did a thing this morning in their lead-up preview show, and I watched it after we recorded ours, and I'm like, how many things are they going to say different than mine? And he basically shit on the Jaguars, and we're like, this guy's terrible. Yeah, they played good last week, but how do you let who the Jaguars beat last week? Do you remember?
Colts.
So long ago. They beat the Colts. So now he was crapping on the Colts, basically saying the Colts are going to lose, the Vikings are going to win.
I don't want to give Rex Ryan airtime on my
they got
show.
Dalvin Cook. They got Dalvin Cook, and he's going to gash them because they got gashed last week by a running back that wasn't even drafted. He's shit. And the Jaguars running back, Robinson, he's good. He's actually really good.
Let's come back to the original question because you're spot on, right? And Josh, I want to hear you having the data. It sounds to me like just from the 30 minutes we're getting to know each other here, you are a data guy. And guys, we've talked to you about Card Ladder, but Luca Nation, please go check it out. They have a free trial. It's just clarity in your decision makings. But RPAs, flight to quality, lower pop cards versus Prism base. Talk to us a little bit more about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so like I'll use an example to point out kind of the inefficiency in the data. So like Michael Thomas, when I was starting to buy his stuff in the off season, he was like my risky play, but someone I felt that was pretty stable and would see some growth in the off season, and he did. But so his Prism PSA 10 silver is like pop. I want to say it's like 200 something. It's pretty high and it's growing super fast because people are grading it now. And those were going for like $800, and I was buying RPAs, 9.5s and 9s for like $1,200 to $1,500. So just a little bit more to get an RPA, which is numbered at a 99. The pops are like 5 to 10 versus 200, and they're a little bit less than half the price. It seems nutty to me. So I bought 4 of them. And like, you're not going to see the quick returns on that kind of stuff because it takes time for people to catch on to how that works. But in basketball, the ratio is a lot higher for an RPA to a silver Prism. So eventually, like, people are going to catch on to that in football. Like, people get more educated as they move into football. They're swarming to football to grab the Prism silver PSA 10 stuff because that's what's the investment thing. And then as they get smarter and they stick around in that new thing that they're jumping into, they'll eventually realize like, okay, this isn't as good because the pop's climbing every day. I need to find something more rare, and they're going to move into RPAs. So that's just kind of how I try to like stay a step ahead of that, you know, and just like always go for the nicest stuff of a player. Like if you're gonna pick a guy and you really believe in him, just get his RPA, get his gold prism out of 10, get his contenders, rookie auto, cracked ice, get his you know, optic, whatever, PSA 10, like start getting like the nicer stuff and hopefully find the stuff that's rare that can protect you against these ups and downs of this common stuff and the pops growing so quickly.
So let's use the example of the LeBron 2003 Topps Chrome, okay?
Yep.
What would you compare that, and then let's use his Topps, just plain 2003 rookie card. So Topps Chrome and the 2003 Topps. Would you compare that to a Prism Silver and a Prism Base today?
No, the Topps Chrome and the Topps Chrome Refractor would be the Prism and the Prism Silver. His Topps Base is probably more like hoops or something. Like it's just like a cheaper card.
So in that case, is the Topps Chrome a good investment right now?
It's going down right now. It's gone down. I'm pulling it up right now. So the Topps Chrome Base PSA 10 right now is down to under 12,000, and it hit a peak of about 15.4. So it peaked at like 15 grand. It's kind of like wavered a little bit, and now it's down under 12 grand. And the pop on that one is over 2,000 now, and it was under 2,000 pretty recently. So like people are grading it more because it's valuable.
Right.
I mean, that one's really like that. If you're going to buy something like that, you're not going to be flipping it necessarily. You're going to be holding it for a long time. It seems a little silly to me that his prices jumped up so much and now they're going down. Now that their odds of winning the championship are getting better, I guess it's just more of like people moving out of it because it went up so fast and they're taking profit. But like, if you're going to buy that card, you might want to consider it pretty soon, because if the Lakers win in the offseason, that card's going to go up quite a bit. So it's probably not going to be under 12 for too much longer.
I love it.
I don't think it is anymore, right, Andrew? I don't think it's 12 anymore. I think it hit its dip, and now that now the Clippers are out,
days. Just the last few days.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a sale 4 days ago of 11.5.
So let's talk a little bit about Card Ladder. I think you guys are doing an amazing job with that. Chris gave us his side, but I'd love to hear from you, the brains, the developer behind Card Ladder. You know, tell us a little bit about the origin story of it, the best way for people to use it, and what you guys see as the future of the program, the tool, the software.
Sure. The origin story is that Chris is a complete data nerd, and he just wanted a tool for himself that he could like punch in all these sales and start to track data with graphs and everything. And so his big thing, our big thing is like, yes, we have all the data, and a lot of different tools do. There's other websites that have the data. The difference between us and everyone else is that we actually comb all the data ourselves and make sure that it's valid. And we, like, if there's an outlier sale that jumps up too high, we don't bring it into our system until there's some more verifiable, data that shows that it was a real sale, like a second sale that's similar or whatever. So that's the origin. And he just like messaged me knowing that I build software and I build apps. So he said, what can we do here? We started building it. It started, it seemed like it had a lot of value just to us. So we just like released it pretty quickly. Actually, we released it like 2 months after that first conversation, 2 to 3 months. And, from there, I guess it's kind of like my whole thing is like I'm focused on the features and like what people want from the software, and Chris is focused on the data. And I'm building a lot of tools for Chris on the admin side to like make his job easier to comb the data and do it efficiently and quickly so that he's not spending a bunch of time on it, because he has to go through sales every single night, and it does take quite a bit of time. But the system that we have is pretty efficient and fast, and we're scraping and pulling sales data from eBay, and we're doing a bunch of different stuff to make it fast. What was your next question? Like, what's the future?
Mm-hmm.
The future, I guess, is the next thing we want to do is like a marketplace where you can actually buy, sell, and trade cards through the platform, because we feel like if we have the best, most accurate and efficient sales data in the industry, then we feel like it'd be a great like meeting place for someone to make transactions with each other. Because if we can say like, hey, we feel confident in this price, and even some of our like predictive algorithm pricing models could help start a conversation between two people to buy and sell a card. Whereas, any other platform like eBay, you're just making numbers up. Hopefully our platform, you at least have somewhere to start and get something going. So we are working on like a marketplace idea where you can buy, sell. And then from there, you know, we want to expand into like a mobile application, making it easier for people to use it and adopt it. We have a bunch of other ideas, you know, like adding to my collection features and stuff like that. And we also do have a free site. I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware of that, but if you just go to cardladder.com, you can search any card in our database. So before you sign up and pay, you can actually just figure out like, do they have the cards that I'm looking for? Do they have the data that I need? We show you the features that we have before you sign up. And even when you do sign up, it's a free trial. So there's really like no risk to just jump in and check it out. And then we feature a lot of content creators like yourselves on the main website. So you can get content that we feel is valuable to someone. We are actually like picking what content to put on the homepage because we want to make sure that like people coming into the hobby are educated properly, and we're giving people with unbiased opinions and things like that. So it's a pretty like wide range of things that we're doing, and we have a lot that we want to do going forward. We hope people are excited about it, and honestly just go to the site and check it out.
And Luca Nation's already going to start emailing me. They did it after we had the Chris episode about trying to get you guys to, you know, they'll sign up for a year. Can they get a discount code? So I'll work with Chris on that. Trust me. But trust me, Luca Nation, you don't have to message me. I can see it now. The inbox is already there. Yeah, where's our code? Where's our discount code? So we'll work on it. But listen, I've used it, and it is amazing. And here's the thing. So you said it, but I'm kind of dumb, right? So I'll use like dumb words. You talk about the data. The data is clean. That's the difference, what you guys provide as opposed to everything else that's out there, right? And I use, before stumbling upon Card Ladder, I would use like 9 different sources. And you're right, the outliers are crazy. And you guys are basically by hand, you know, so it's a combination of tech and human, right? So it's cyborg. But so you guys are actually taking those outliers out, which makes the data that you guys have so much cleaner than every other source that's out there. And that, guys, if you're listening, that is huge because, you know, everybody else will average a price or, you know, they won't take those outliers out, and it really skews the data. So what you guys are doing, it really is a huge thing, and I'm sure it's tedious, but the value is huge. So thank you.
That's our value, really, is like the time we spend on it. I mean, we're obviously not just like manually reviewing every sale. That would be impossible. So like the tech side of it, the automation side, my job is to put the sales that do need to be reviewed in front of Chris, and the ones that are just like, yeah, you know, Luca Prism based PSA 10, we only are looking at auctions every day because it auctions off 3 times a day. And if it's within, you know, the price range that it has been recently, we just let it through, right? And if there's a little bit more of a red flag to it, it's jumped, looks like a fake sale, it looks like it's been pumped and dumped or something like that, then I flag it in the system and Chris reviews it. So there's like a pretty decent amount of like manual plus, you know, automated and being intelligent about it.
Minshew's about to lead a game-winning drive, which I'm excited about. Let me ask you 2 last questions, unless Cage has anything else. I want to hear from you. Do you think Gary Vee, good for the hobby, bad for the hobby?
Great for the hobby.
Great for the hobby. Good.
Yeah, I mean, he's bringing a ton of attention and people into the hobby, and his big push is education. So like, he's bringing people into the hobby. He's not just like pumping and dumping stuff and coming in and getting right out. He's trying to keep people educated. He's trying to point people to the right sources. Yeah, you can say he's made some mistakes along the way. He's, you know, posted cards he shouldn't have that he's even talked about. But overall, the attention and excitement that he's brought to the hobby can't be matched. So it's amazing.
I like the education part of it, right? So I try not to talk to 1 or 2 specific influencers because it's not just Gary out there. There's so many other people who have just gone into the hobby and really, you know, lit a fire under it. But I do like, here's content, here's an article, here's one of these to read, here's something to, here's something to read to make sure you're educated. Don't just jump your money in. You know, and it's funny because so many people I'll watch on Twitter, so many people will write to these influencers, hey, I got these 10,000 cards in my basement from when I was a kid. And, you know, the response back is always, well, did you happen to be a kid from 1987 to 1994? Because if so, it's good kindling, you know? So, you know, I mean, it's so funny because that's, of course, what I have in my basement as well. So listen, I mean, you're really in the weeds with the data and that kind of stuff. And obviously, you know what's going on, your finger on the pulse. If you could give one piece of advice to the listening audience out there with their collection, and I mean, if you want to give it 2, low-end collector, high-end collector, split it however you want. If you can give some advice to the folks that we have listening to this, and it is a lot. It's more than every day it's more, and I'm pretty, Andrew convinced me. He's like, trust me, people will listen to you, you crazy bastard. And I guess he's right. So if you got some advice, please, we'd love to hear it, because they're tired of hearing from me.
My biggest advice is patience, because I think what's happening right now is it's been such easy money that anyone jumping in is making money, and everyone feels like a genius stock trader, and everyone's flashing their stuff on Instagram, how much money they've made and all this. But the bottom line is that everyone made money in the last 6 months, so there's not really too much intelligence needed for that. So the next step is like stuff's going to go down, pops are going to go up, people are going to get burned. So I think you just need to have patience in terms of like, don't panic selling stuff too quick. Don't panic buy stuff just because everyone else is buying it. Don't like freak out at one game. It's sort of like take the whole thing in totality and like try to figure out and educate yourself on everything within the hobby, the sets, the cards, the populations, the players, the history. Like we were talking about why people shouldn't buy tennis cards, because yeah, you're right. There's no like history and background in it. So like understanding that is also important, right? You're not just like having people pick random athletes and go buy their cards. You have to understand which cards and why and which grades. So patience, education, knowledge, timing, all of that stuff kind of rolls into patience for me, and like making sure you're not just like making quick decisions.
Yep. Be smart, be educated, and have some patience. I love it. I mean, it really is. Listen, it's a long game. It's a long season. You don't want to buy somebody or sell somebody just based on one game. I texted Andrew earlier today. I'm like, my Minshew play, he just threw an early pick, and now he's got 300 yards and 3 touchdowns after that pick, and I mean, so it really is, it's a long game. And I'm going to have to listen to you too, because if there's one thing Andrew will give you a behind the scenes look, I have no patience, none. I want to sell cards before they're even in my hands. I want to do this. I want to move. And he has to light the incense and like woosah every once in a while. And he's got to really like calm me down. And
well, Cage, we talked about this, I think it was Friday, the monkey mind. The monkey mind is what needs that action. It needs that activity. I think we all have that. I think what Josh is saying is, even though we all have that, how can you be conscious of it and still make good, sound decisions and not overreact? Because we all are like, damn it, I invested in someone and they got injured. Damn it, I invested in someone, they had a bad game. But being conscious and aware of it and not making your decisions impulsively and emotionally, I think it's a skill. I think it's practice. I think it can be learned. I don't think it's something that someone's born with.
100%. Yeah, you're totally right. It's I mean, it's something that just like comes with time, like you said, and practice. I think a lot of people just want to like, this isn't just cards, but people just want to have things happen for them so quickly. And if you just look at any industry, any market, anything, it takes skill and time. Like, sports, your job, your family, everything takes time and effort. And you can't just like jump into anything and start winning. And I think that's what's been bad about the last 6 months for some of those folks, is that they have been winning and they're going to get burned in the long run if they're not stepping back and focusing and taking their time. So it just time and
I love it.
Really...
I love it. I've told the story a couple times of my son bringing him to a card show and buying a couple of blasters of Prism basketball this year, and basically everyone had a Zion in it, and consecutively better Zions, from a Zion base to a Zion silver to a Zion Pulsar out of 25, and now he legit thinks that every single pack he opens is going to have a Zion numbered card in it. And believe it or not, I only bring that up because that's our hobby right now. Like, that is legit. That is a perfect microcosm for our hobby, because right now everybody has bought, and every pack they've opened had a Zion in it. And eventually you're going to start opening packs and it's going to even out, right? Every pack can't have a Zion in it. And Josh's advice, which is really sound, is be patient. Buy the stuff that you think is going to be good. Buy the stuff that you think is going to be quality. Buy the stuff that you love. And you're going to be fine there. Any final words, Josh?
Be careful with wax. That's kind of like the first instinct for a lot of new people to come in, is like, I want to just almost like use a cheat code and go buy a box and pull a monster card. It just doesn't work that way, man. Like, it's impossible to pull that like 101 Zion. And I've heard Gary say like, oh, you can pull a $1 million Zion card from a $10 pack, and it's just not true. Like, that's the lottery, man. Like, you're just not going to win that way. So be careful with boxes. Use it more for fun than making money. I don't really think I've ever made money on boxes except for flipping sealed boxes. I've never like bought $1,000 box and pulled like a $5,000 card. It happens every once in a while, but in general, you're going to lose money.
It
So
is
I'd focus on
gambling.
singles.
Remember, it's totally gambling. You can. What he's talking about is like the national treasures. You can get into a break for $10 or $100. I mean, you're not getting into. You can get into a random player or serial number break for $10 or $20 on a national treasure and happen to hit the $1 million 101 logo man Zion at the time. You know, I think that's what he was trying to say. But your point is 100% right. You got to know what you're doing, right? And don't expect to be making money buying boxes and breaking them. That's almost like going into 7-Eleven or Wawa or wherever your local, grocery store is, buying a scratch-off ticket and expecting to make money on it every time. It's just not the way it works. Sometimes it might, but it's just not the way it works. It's not going to happen every time.
Yeah, I mean, and just to wrap it with these two last things I would love to say is, like, you're seeing the Mosaic Zion rookies already drop into $20 a pop. Well, if every single pack has a Zion, over time that plays itself out. And once demand leaves and moves to football or baseball or soccer, or just even gets a little bit more like spread out, every pack has a Zion Mosaic. And the way you really make $1 million in cards is, instead of breaking wax, you sit in those wax rooms, and when someone breaks a Prism Zion base, you buy it off them, you sub it, you get the money from a PSA 10 or a PSA 9 and then reinvest it. I think that's the best way to get the cards that you really want. I couldn't be more against wax and breaking, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
See, I love it.
To
me, I'm with you on the flip, but to me, you need to have people who are breaking cards in order for the hobby to be the hobby. You know, and I mean, maybe I'm a fool, maybe that's stupid, but to me, before it was a flipping and an investment and all this other stuff, this was, you open up cards, you know, you open up packs. Look at that little guy behind you there, Josh. He's going to open a pack and have a favorite guy and maybe put a set together. You know, like, I remember putting together, hand collating the 1987 Topps wood set. You know, I mean, the wood border set, like, that's, you still have to have a little bit of that in the hobby. I break cards every Friday with my son. But I know when I'm breaking that I'm going to lose money, because I'm not making money on a $125 Allen and Ginter box when I'm getting this plain white John Lester jersey relic out of it. What am I selling that for? Come on.
You should throw it to first base.
No, I'm going to hang on to it in case COVID comes back really bad. I run out of toilet
You don't
paper.
get the joke. John Lester can't throw to first base.
Yeah, I know he can't throw to first base.
Well, who's your son's favorite player? Does he have one?
Who's your favorite player?
LeBron James.
There you go.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. Oh, LeBron.
Every game we watch.
Bronny or LeBron?
He doesn't know about Bronny, but every game we watch, he's like, "Is LeBron in this game?" I'm like, "Well, it's not the Lakers, so no." But tomorrow night, he's playing tonight, right?
Yep.
Are we gonna
Well,
win?
Josh, we are more than appreciative of your time. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your best practices, your information. Thank you for getting us on Card Ladder, right? So,
Yeah.
Luca Nation, we're now on, our content is now just featured on Card Ladder's page. So, really appreciate that.
Thanks, Josh. Listen, guys, if you didn't, Josh dropped a couple of nuggets in this episode, some really good tidbits, stuff that now we're 68 or 69 episodes in, and it hasn't been mentioned. And you really should go back and listen to some of his Hall of Fame picks, some of his, you know, it kind of jives with our flight to quality, some of where the Asia market is putting their money. There's some really good, little nuggets of information in here. So, go back and listen if you didn't catch it all. Thanks, Josh.
I just wanted to say appreciate you guys for bringing knowledge to a new podcast. Like, I get a little nervous about new pods, but you guys are preaching the right stuff. So I really appreciate that for the community, and keep doing it.
Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.